Lovely. So we're now recording. So welcome to this afternoon's tasting. My name's Liz Whedon. Fantastic to have you all online with us this afternoon. And pleasure to introduce you to Kenny. And Kenny is the brand ambassador for Haymans here in New Zealand, and is exceptionally good at spirit tastings in general. But one of my favourite things to see Kenny do is a cocktail class. So that's what we've asked Kenny to do this afternoon, and you've all got an incredible looking pack there. I'm sure when it arrived, you were just delighted, and Kenny's going to take us through a series of cocktails and use all of those ingredients to make different things through the afternoon. So we'll hand over to you, Kenny, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully everyone's ready to get through this golden hour of cocktail power. I will add that obviously you see that you're going to be making 6 cocktails or so, and some of them relatively potent, the way that cocktails should be. So just be mindful of how much you drink if you are outside of Auckland and pretending to be driving anywhere this afternoon. But I'm looking outside and I'm pretty fizzed up to be here. Perfect afternoon for cocktails. What I like to do is keep it pretty relaxed. I'll share with you some tips and tricks on making cocktails to hopefully enhance your performance at home. But if you do have any questions, make sure that you just chuck them in the chat, and it can be about anything. I'll try cover a little bit about Haymans, but ultimately this is more about cocktails. So make sure that at home, because you are muted, so crank up the music. This is meant to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, what I'll do is in between I will share a screen. So I've got some recipes and some how-tos. So that way you can actually see. Some people like to learn by doing, some people like to learn by reading. So I'll share my screen so you can see what we're drinking, how we're going to make it. But hopefully you should still be able to see me in the corner somewhere. So welcome to the Haymans Cocktail Hour. And the very first drink that we are going to look at doing is a peach and rose cup. So if you just look in front of your pack, you would have got a little bottle like this. In the front of it, it'll say Haymans Peach and Rose Cup. And what we need to do is you just find yourself a glass that you want to be making this cocktail in. This is traditionally in a highball glass or a tall glass. But what you'll actually find is that a short glass and a tall glass, if you have one at home, usually they're actually pretty similar volumes. So it doesn't really matter. If you like to drink out of a tall glass, do that. If you like to drink out of short glasses, do that. So find yourself any glass you like. And because I make cocktails for a living and do spirit trainings for a living, I've of course got all the equipment and stuff. This is what we call a jigger. All right, so this is just a fancy cocktail measure that we use. But if you don't have one of these, you can either do it by eye, all right, which is quite a dangerous game to play after a few drinks. But the other things you can use is things like a tablespoon. All right, so a tablespoon is actually 15 ml worth of liquid. All right, so if you don't have a jigger, just use a tablespoon, and it does the same thing. When I say free pouring, when it comes to cocktails, it's actually pretty important to measure everything. All right, because consistency is king. So it's a little bit more like baking, where if you're making a cake and you add too much liquid or too much dry, the cake's not going to work. All right, so we try and measure everything. So what we're going to do, just pour the spirit, 45 ml of Haymans Peach and Rose Cup into your glass, like so. And what you'll find is you can read all sorts of articles online about how do I make cocktails? Should I put ice first? Should I put my spirit first? In my opinion, always put the liquid in first. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill your glass completely with ice. And when I say completely, all right, we don't want to scrimp on it. Okay. We want the glass completely full with ice. The reason for that is because the more ice, the colder the drink is going to be and the less dilution. All right. So now we're going to grab our East Imperial Yuzu lemonade. So for those people who don't know what yuzu is, yuzu is kind of a blend between citrus fruits. All right, so a Japanese fruit Very, very, very delicious. And I'll talk about a little bit about East Imperial later. So last thing, what we need to do is just give it a good mix, give it a stir. So again, if you've got a fancy long spoon like this, a bar spoon, you can use that, but anything that you can stir with, whether it's chopsticks, whether you're just using a kitchen knife, doesn't matter. And the last thing, one thing that you wouldn't have found in your tasting packs, all right, was a garnish. All right, so garnishes to me and historically have actually been used like a wedge of lemon or lime, or have actually been used because the products that they were putting out didn't taste very good. All right, but nowadays we're using some amazing spirits like Haymans, but also mixes that taste exceptional like yuzu lemonade. So traditionally, this doesn't actually require a garnish. If you were to drink this as is, it would be absolutely delicious. But if you do find that you want a little bit of extra citrus, whether that's lemon, lime, orange, whatever you can find in there, it's your drink. You can do with it whatever you like. All right, so that's the first cocktail. I've just got myself a wee citrus peel here. And the way I've done that, I've just taken my orange. I've got myself a peeler. Peel myself a thick strip of orange there, like so. And if you do have people around and you want to be a little bit fancy, all right, the reason why sometimes for a cocktail you pay $10 is because they give you something that looks like this. All right, if you just take your knife and square it off a little bit, you'll actually make a very, very presentable ribbon that looks something like so. Much, much nicer to look at. All right. Now, putting this in your drink isn't actually going to change the taste very much. What we want to get out of citrus peel, all right, is actually the essential oils. So if you place the ribbon in between your fingers like so and spray it over the top of your drink, you'll actually see sprays of oils going over the top of the drink. And you'll see people wiping the outside of the glass, all right, so that some of that oil actually goes onto the glass. And what you'll find is once you start drinking, all right, all that oil is also going to transfer into your hands, and now your hands smell amazing too. All right, so cheers to you. I hope you enjoy this drink. And I'll just stop sharing this one, bring it back to me, hopefully. So the first drink that we're having here is known as a cup, all right, or the Peach and Rose Cup by Haymans. So Haymans weren't the creators of this drink. The cup is actually a style of drink, the word cup. So traditionally what the cup was is they would use gin, and it was actually also a lot of extra juniper and other spices and things added in and topped up with lemonade. Traditionally, that's what a cup is. And it wasn't, you've probably all heard of the term Pim's cup, all right? So Pim's really, really took this on board and made it a huge, huge thing. But ultimately, it's really just a drink that has lemonade. And nowadays what you'll see lots of fruits and different strawberries, and traditionally the Pim's cup is served with cucumbers. So there's so many different ways that you can actually serve a cup style drink, but ultimately this is meant to be like a summer refreshing drink. So if you do have some cucumber at home, I don't know if people do, but being a water-based garnish, all right, is that ultimately what's going to happen at the beginning, you won't get a lot of cucumber flavor. The longer that the cucumber sits in your drink, the more of the water is going to leave the cucumber to join the rest of the liquid. So it will become more cucumbery the further down you get in your drink. All right. So I like it like this, but ultimately this is also a great way to do a punch. So if you are hosting some cocktail parties over summer, what I would do is I would get a 700 ml of the Haymans Peach and Rose Cup and just make this into a big punch bowl. Throw in lots of citrus fruits, lots of strawberries, lots of cucumber, and just let people help themselves. So I see lots of cameras on. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down for this on a hot day? Thumbs up? Yeah. So this product here by Haymans is relatively new. We've only had it in the country for a little while, but I think this summer, this is going to be my summer drink for sure. I absolutely love it. Do you have, if you do have any questions, chuck them in the chat now. All right, because we don't want to rush through it too much.
Kenny, I don't think we've got too many questions, but we've got some overwhelming comments that it's just delicious.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really, really good. So the cool thing about this as well is that, there is this whole movement. That's a great question, Cindy. I will answer that for sure. There's a lot of people out there who are looking to low and no alcohol as well, so this is a 26% ABV, I believe. I will double check that. 25% ABV. Do you know what I mean? So if you are having a few drinks over summer, or being low ABV, it's absolutely amazing. So what other mixes is this good with? I would say anything that, if people are often very, very, very familiar with a Pim's Cup. So think ginger ale, ginger beer, lemonade, even soda, having a real predominant peach flavor. Even just a splash of soda in there is going to do absolute wonders. Super refreshing. I agree, Belinda. But being this delicious, it also disappears pretty quickly. And I will just talk a little bit also just about the East Imperial. For those people who don't know, this is actually a New Zealand product with huge family history. So the recipes that they actually use for the tonic, etc., are very, very historical. But the cool thing about East Imperial is, and we'll talk a little bit about it when we get to the G&T, but they're real flavor experts. And the way that they do that is they use a lot of different essential oils. All right, and if we were to actually list all the oils that they use to create a certain flavor, the list would be very, very long, but they're all natural. The other really cool thing about these guys, and something that they've worked really, really hard on, is the carbonation. So when it comes to a mixer, it's actually really, really hard to have lots of bubbles and not as much sugar, all right, because that's what the CO2 actually hangs on to. So what East Imperial have done is they use really, really high pressure, but they do it at a very low temperature. So what that means is that the fizz or the bubbles that we are actually creating are very, very close to drinking a glass of champagne. And why that's important is because once you pour the mixer over alcohol or over a spirit, we want that carbonation to still be there, and we don't want all those bubbles to be burst. So it's a really, really intricate process, and it takes a hell of a long time and lots of skill. But these guys are genuine experts at doing it, and their range now is amazing. From lemonades to sodas to ginger ales, and obviously the tonic water, which we will try next. So can I get a thumbs up for all those people with cameras on if we're ready to move on? Oh, yes. How good. All right. I'm just going to go get rid of this and chuck it in the sink. Alrighty, so I'll just share my screen. I mean, the next drink we are going to do, we'll do this one. Next drink we are going to do, hopefully everyone here is familiar with. It is still the #1 gin drink around the world, so gin is obviously extremely, extremely popular all around the world. And we see it being used in all sorts of cocktails, and it's getting some real highlights. But the thing is that, over 95% of gin drinks around the world is still served in a gin and tonic style. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take your mini bottle here. This is the Haymans London Dry Gin. And of that, we're going to take 45 mils. So I'm going to use my tablespoon here. So we need 3 of these if you're using a tablespoon. And again, I always start with my spirit first to stop dilution. Now I'm going to fill my glass up with ice. And remember, when we're making cocktails, ice is your best friend. All right, the more the merrier. And I will harp on about that a lot. So now it's pretty cool. So hopefully everyone's got a can of the Yuzu tonic in front of them, the yellow can. So you guys are actually some of the first people around the country to be looking at the new East Imperial cans. So these cans have only just come out. Glengarry's has got them all in stock now. But there's been obviously cans in terms of beer and other beverages has become really, really popular. But you're going to be able to buy these in 10 packs. And all the most popular flavors are going to be available in a can. So this is actually 180 ml of liquid, which is perfect if you've got 2 or 4 people in your bubbles at home. Because when it comes to good gin and tonic, I usually actually say that it's a 2-to-1 ratio. All right, so 2 parts of tonic, 1 part of gin. It might sound quite strong, but that's how I like to drink my gin anyway. So it's completely up to you how much tonic you're going to mix with this gin. But for me, a 2-to-1 ratio is perfect. So I'm going to put 90 mils of the yuzu tonic into my G&T. Just like that. So we already know about yuzu, what flavor it is and things. So again, citrus, if you are going to garnish, citrus is a wonderful garnish for this. I've managed to find myself some grapefruit. So I'm just going to add a very thin slice of grapefruit into my glass. Give it a stir. And just like that, we have a delicious gin and tonic. Stop the share. Perfect. Alrighty. So a little bit about the gin and tonic. Hopefully you guys are interested in a little bit of the history behind this drink, but also I will touch a little bit on Haymans and exactly what gin actually is and should be. All right. So the G&T actually came about a long time ago. There was a company called the Dutch East Indies Trading Company, and they were seafaring all around the world. Now, being stuck on a boat, one of the problems is that a lot of people weren't getting a lot of vitamin C. So when they got to India, what they found is all the sailors would get a ration of gin on board, but they needed something to fight off malaria. So what they would do is they would have this thing called quinine. All right, so you would have maybe heard of quinine in terms of tonic water. Now, quinine is actually comes from the bark of a cinchona tree. So they'll take the bark, they'll dry it, turn it into a powder. But if you try quinine, it is the most bitter thing you will ever try in your whole entire life. So to make that more palatable, what they actually did is they mixed that with some lime. They mixed it with a little bit of sugar and water so that people could drink it. They added that to their gin, and that's actually the original tonic water. Of course, nowadays it's come and gone a lot further, but that's actually the start of the gin and tonic, but also tonic water as we know it. So the cool thing again about East Imperial, just so you guys know, is when we take the quinine or the from the cinchona tree, there's 2 ways to do it. Number one is you can actually just take the whole tree away, put it through a shredder, and then you can get some quinine at the end. The better way to do it is actually strip the bark from the outside. And for the reason for that is environmentally, it's a lot better, but the quality of quinine that we actually get from stripping the bark is a lot cleaner. All right. So East Imperial only takes the bark, and hence why we get this beautiful green quinine flavor in all of our tonic water. So that's the G&T. And because we are trying a few different types of gin today, you might be able to see over my right-hand shoulder here, this is some of the range of Haymans. But what you'll notice is in your pack as well that you would have got an Old Tom and also a Hayman London Dry. So all these things that we see on the bottle actually mean something. All right. So just quickly, you'll see London Dry Gin. Now, you can make gin anywhere in the world and call it a London Dry, as long because it's just a style. All right. What it means is that the predominant flavor of the gin should be juniper. It doesn't say you have to use a certain percentage and all that sort of stuff. All it means is that juniper should be the main flavor, and that makes a classic style of London Dry Gin. Okay. You have to also cast your mind back to the 1750s for this kind of gin. to be created. So what happened in the 1750s is gin got so popular over in England that it was killing a hell of a lot of people. So you may have heard gin being referred to as Mother's Ruin, as Kill Devil, Bathtub Gin. These are all pretty nasty names. So what was happening back in that day, there was so much gin being consumed, and there were absolutely no rules about who could make it, who could sell it, how much for. So for the first time and the last time in history there, the death rate was higher than the birth rate. And it's all pretty much because of Mother's Ruin or gin. It's crazy. All right. But what happened is every man and his dog wanted to make a bit of money from gin. So what they would do is, for example, I would go to Liz, and Liz was actually producing gin. I would buy gin from Liz, but instead of just selling it as the product, I would water it down so that I would get more volume. But what that also meant that the alcohol level would go down. So I would add things like methylated spirits, all sorts of hallucinogens, so that people were still getting the euphoric effect of getting drunk, but really they were just getting poisoned pretty much. All right. You can imagine adding all those extra things like methylated spirits, it wouldn't taste very good. So what they would also do is add a lot of sugar. And hence why we have Old Tom Gin. So before we make the last cocktail today, what I'll do is I'll get everybody actually to try a little bit of this neat. What you will find is that this is much, much sweeter style of gin because it simply means sugar added. The reason why I tell you that story is because when you look at London Dry, okay, the dry actually means and tells you that there is no sugar added to the gin. It doesn't really mean at all that the taste profile of the gin leaves you with a dry mouth. All right. It actually just says dry means no sugar added. Old Tom means sugar added. All right. So that's some of the history around these products. Haymans has been around for a long, long period of time. Some of you guys may have heard of Beef Eater gin before. So Beef Eater and Haymans was actually created by the same person. All right. But they continued down the Beef Eater avenue. They sold the recipe for Haymans, and it's been a family business ever since. And they are really about true English gin. And the product that they made is next level amazing. This is one of the most balanced gins I've ever tasted. And trust me, I have tried a lot of gin from all around the world. So that's the G&T. I have the most amazing Hayman's gin liqueur, almost finished. Is that? You are talking about, no, they don't. The name's going to come to me in a second. Oh, Family Reserve, I think. I'm pretty sure it's Family Reserve. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore. But hey, Liz, do you guys have that spiced slow gin in store yet?
I think we do.
You think you do?
Yes, I'm pretty sure we do.
Okay, so Hayman's.
Yes, we do.
Cool. So Hayman's has gone through some family changes, and what that's meant is that you would have seen updated packaging. So they're using all these really, really cool like pastel colors, and it really stands out. But what they're also been doing is putting out like limited releases and things. So if you like slow gin, this is their standard slow gin that you'll be able to find. But they also do this spice slow gin, which is next level amazing. They've obviously just brought out that peach and rose cup, which we've tried. And we're also about to get into the country a really lemon citrus forward style gin, because Hayman's is really all about balance. They never really highlight one certain flavor profile, but this lemon gin that I've tried, we're only getting a small amount into the country, is definitely worth a try if you like your gin. Alrighty, shall we move on? Alrighty, beautiful. So we are going to move on to a white Negroni. Alrighty, so I'm just going to put this into this thing. Alrighty, so for this, there are a few ways to make these sorts of cocktails. So this is what's known as a classic cocktail. All right. So the word cocktail, as we know it, actually originated, and they found historically, actually the first reference to it with a definition was in 1907. So the word cocktail actually means something strong, something sweet, something bitter, and dilution. So usually water. All right. So in this instance, we have something strong. That's our Haymans. Excuse me. We have something sweet. That's our Lillet. We have something a little bit bitter. In this instance, we're using Dolan Vermouth. Usually, we would actually use a bitter like Campari, for example. And this drink, we're not going to shake. We're actually just going to stir it. All right. When we're shaking a cocktail, we're adding also aeration. We don't really need that. So there's a few ways to do that. You'll find out and about, you can buy yourself some expensive equipment. So I've got a mixing glass here. This is actually a botanist mixing glass. So you could put all your ingredients here with ice, stir it down and pour it into your serving glass. But that's completely up to you. The other way that you can go about this, all right, is you have to make a decision. Do you want to drink this cocktail neat, and that means without ice, or do you want to drink this with ice? All right. So if I was going to drink it with ice, just a short glass with lots of ice in it like this will do. But I actually prefer to drink this drink in a martini glass. So I've been relatively prepared this afternoon. So this glass has just been sitting in the freezer. All right, so it's going to be nice and cold. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use my mixing glass. So I'm going to take our London Dry by Haymans. And of that, we need 30 mils. So just pour that either into your serving glass or into a big mixing glass. So put 30 mils in there. Next, you need to find your Dolan Vermouth, which will be in one of the small bottles. And it's equal parts, so the same amount. And last but not least, a little bit of Lillet. And now what we need to do is we need to add ice to that. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to stir the drink down, all right? So what's really important, there is no such thing as me telling you stir for 5 seconds, stir for 10 seconds, all right? It's completely up to you. We're trying to get the drink cold, but we're also trying to add a little bit of dilution. So what I like to do is I stir down, then I just grab my spoon or whatever you're mixing with. I put a little bit onto my hand, just here, so I can taste it, all right? And then I just keep stirring until I think it's cold enough and diluted enough. And for me, that's already really good right there. So I've got a strainer here, okay? If you are using other equipment from home, you can just use a lid, all right? If you don't have that, you can also use a sieve. I know it's probably overkill using a massive sieve like this, but needs must, all right? When you're making cocktails, just use whatever you have around the home. So because I'm having it neat, I'm just going to pour it straight into my glass like so. Now the traditional garnish again here is orange, all right, and it's just an orange peel. So I am going to do that. So again, we're looking for our peeler. Because I want to treat myself, I'm going to take the effort to square it all off and make it look presentable. And really, I'm trying to get all that oil again onto the top of the drink. So I squeeze it a couple of times. What you would have also seen if you've been to a cocktail bar, or you may have done it at home because you're feeling a little bit fancy. What you can do is if you do like a little bit of smoky flavor in your drink, all right, or like burnt citrus, which is actually really nice. If you hold your peel in one hand like so, and if you have a lighter in the other, just put the flame on, hold it to your citrus for a while. And then if you squeeze it, the oil will actually get burnt over the top of your drink and you look like an absolute professional. All right. So that's what I'm going to do there. Again, I will always rub the peel around the rim and also down the stem. Again, we're trying to get it onto people's hands or your own hands when you're drinking. And you can just pop it into your drink like so. So this here is a white Negroni. Cheers, team.
Hey, Kenny, we've got a question here on what is Lille?
Yeah, so Lille is an aperitif. It's wine-based. And like I said, like this is the traditional Negroni actually calls for Campari. So Campari is like really, really, really bitter. And ultimately what happens is if you haven't tried a Negroni before, using Campari and a traditional style of Negroni, it can be very, very overpowering and overwhelming. This is a much gentler style of drinking a Negroni. So the Lille is a wonderful replacement for that. It's actually not a very common product used out and about, but definitely worth to get a bottle at home. It's also just absolutely delicious with things like soda, tonic water. It's actually a really, really versatile product. It's says I found my drink, not so bitter as the usual Negroni. Absolutely, yep. Strong, absolutely, yeah. So classic cocktails usually are very, very strong. So other cocktails that fall into this realm are things like the old-fashioned cocktail. What else would fall into it? The Manhattan, if people like those drinks. If it is a little bit too strong for you, all right, what you can also do is you can take those drinks and turn it into a tall drink, all right? You don't have to drink it like this. If you do have some like usually lemonade left over, don't be scared to use this as a base because the flavor profile is beautiful. But if it's too strong for you, honestly, just top it up with a little bit of soda or any of the East Imperial range and you won't be disappointed. It's way too drinkable. Yeah, I know. This is amazing. So good. I'm so glad that people are liking it. Usually Negroni can be really off-putting and overpowering. So I'm glad that people are enjoying it. And thank you to the Glengarry team for including this cocktail, actually. Bloody good. So a little bit about the Negroni, since we're on a bit of a history tour anyway. So this drink was originated in 1919. And it was a gentleman with the last name Negroni, actually, that came up with it. But there was a cocktail known as an Americano cocktail that actually predates this one. And what that is actually a tall version. So we have some sweet vermouth. So you can buy Dolan sweet vermouth. And then Campari, lots of ice and topped up with soda water. All right. But that wasn't strong enough for him. So what he got to do is he got his mate and he said, don't worry about the soda water. I want something way stronger. So they got rid of the soda and they added gin. And that's how the Negroni actually came to be. So yeah, it's a pretty cool story. To my usual Negroni, I add a little Grand Marnier. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Who was that? Rachel Ward. Yeah, for sure. That's really, really good from you. And that's the thing, you know, when it comes to cocktails like this Negroni, don't be scared to play around. You know, if you have marmalade or any kind of like lemon curd or strawberry jam at home, like a little, like you don't need to overpower it, but just adding little touches of flavor like that is a great way to go about making cocktails. I actually also really like this personally, this white Negroni with a little bit of mint. All right, it just freshens it up heaps. And just while we're on mint, anybody in the chat like mojitos? Okay. So one thing that really pisses me off, right, and I'll just get this off my chest because I'm the only one unmuted, is I love mojitos, right? I think it's one of the best drinks out there if made properly. But what happens is, you know, people get their mint, you go to a bar, you know, and then they get this beautiful mint. And the first thing that they do, right, because they look all fancy, they do this, right, which makes the room smell really good because, as you now know, like squeezing citrus, it's all about essential oil. Mint is exactly the same. So inside the leaves are thousands of small bubbles that hold mint oil. So by slapping it like this, your hands smell next level amazing. But by the time we use this, to make a drink, there's no oil left. So your mojito is actually not going to taste like mint. So the way that we do it is you just grab yourself a glass if you are making mojitos at home. And trust me, gin mojitos are amazing. So what you want to do is you just take your mint, you put it into your glass, add all your other ingredients apart from the soda water, and then you use a muddler or you might just have a spoon, and you actually just gently press the leaves into the liquid. So we're releasing all the oil, and it's being captured by the rum and things and the lime juice that is actually in your drink. And this way, you'll actually get an absolute flavor bomb of a mojito. All right, and that's the way it should taste. So a little bit off topic, but just a little hack for those people making mojito or mint drinks at home. If you are going to garnish with mint, then it's a good idea. If you take it off the thing, just give the leaves a gentle press, because by the time you put it on top of your drink, all that aroma, when the person is going to drink their drink, will just be absolutely amazing. Sweet? Amazing. Should we move on? I don't know how you guys are doing this, eh? Your pace is next level amazing. I'm very envious. I'll be back. Oh. All righty. So the next drink we are going to move on to is the gin spritz. All right. So the spritz style drink has also been around since the late 1800s. And the word spritz in German actually means a splash. And the reason for this drink is because back then they fell under a different empire. What they found is that the wine in Italy for the Austrian people was actually way too strong. So what they would do is they would actually kind of water it down. So they used to just use water, which then turned into soda water. And then over time, they went away from it being too strong. So they thought, why don't we add more alcohol by using Prosecco as the dilution? All right. So the word spritz, like I said, just means splash in German. So this here is a gin-based cocktail. So what we're going to do is you can actually pour it straight into your serving glass. So I have a champagne flute here, again, because my household tends to enjoy a few cocktails most days of the week. I have a lot of glassware sitting in my freezer, so it's nice and cold. So I'm going to start off with 20 ml of the Haymans London Dry. So that just goes straight into your glass. So that's 15. And I don't know whether people at home have official bar spoons like this one, all right? But if you're buying yourself a good bar spoon, what you can actually know is that the spoon part itself is always 5 mils, all right? So if you are looking for a 5 mil pour, just fill your bar spoon up, and that's exactly the amount you're looking for. So in there, we've got our London Dry. So now it's really up to you about how much of each of the Prosecco and the soda you put in. Personally, I like more Prosecco. So today we have the Tosti Prosecco. So whack the top of that. So I'm probably going to go 3/4 of Prosecco. And then I'm going to grab the East Imperial Grapefruit Soda, which is actually one of my favorite products from the East Imperial range, other than the Royal Botanic Tonic. I don't know whether you guys have tried that, but do me a favor, if you haven't, you need to buy it ASAP. So on here we have Garnish. So again, this is completely up to you. All right. Personally, I really like sour cocktails. So for me, I would maybe get some lime and just squeeze a couple of drops of lime in there. Again, use the citrus peel for the top, but things in summer like strawberries, pomegranate seeds, etc., if you want to flash it up a bit, is not a bad idea either. But yeah, play around with this one. You know, if you think that it's a little bit too strong, there's too much Prosecco, don't be scared to just utilize a little bit more grapefruit soda. I'm just going to add a little splash of lime. Oh, that is so delicious. What are people thinking? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Love
Lots of thumbs up, Kenny. And everyone's also pointed out that the pace is fine and this number of cocktails is fine because we've got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Are most people in Auckland? Or is everybody in Auckland or?
No, we've got some people outside Auckland as well.
Okay.
Belinda's also rightly pointed out that, after this much time in lockdown, tolerance has been built.
Yeah, I like the word tolerance because in my household we call it piss fit. So we don't go to the gym, but we call it piss fit. So yeah, we've also been working on that.
Also, Kenny, another really good comment here is no one needs to drive.
That's right. That's right.
Perfect. Hey, I love the citrus in that and that slightly, that sour nature of that. I think it's really cool.
Absolutely, yeah. This is if you're hosting a party, this is the ultimate welcome drink. There are some amazing like Prosecco based cocktails, like the Cœur Royal, the Chambord Royal. If you haven't tried that, you need to. We have things like the Bellini. There are just so many delicious Prosecco drinks out there, and this particular one sets the standard. It's not going to break the bank, which is actually really, really important, right? There's no point using high end, super expensive champagne, all right, because you're actually adding lots of things to it. So this does an amazing job. I'm an athlete too. Love it. All righty. Should we get stuck into the next one?
Why not?
People keen to get stuck in? Beautiful. All right. So this next drink again, it's called a Gimlet. I'll just bring up the presentation. So the next drink is a Gimlet. So this here is a really, really basic cocktail. Again, it falls sort of under the sour cocktail. It can be quite potent as well, but this is where you get to play around a little bit. All right. When it comes to cocktails, I always tell people you start with a recipe, but people have to tailor it. All right. What really pisses me off as well is that you can pay some good money for a cocktail, $20, $18, depending on where you live, but it often doesn't get the same treatment as like a steak would. Right. If you go to a restaurant, people will always ask you, how would you like your steak? People don't ask me how sour I would like my cocktail, but they should, right? Because we're actually spending a fair bit of money on it. So this is the base recipe. If you know that you like more sour drinks or a little bit more sweeter, make sure that you play around with these quantities, but this is a perfect starting point. So again, you've got the choice. You can have it over ice. I prefer to have this drink neat, or also known as up. If you want to sound really fancy, you just say up, and that means without ice. So I'm going to go and just quickly clean out my mixing glass. So we start off with the Haymans London Dry. Of that, we need 60 ml. And then you just grab your two little small bottles. One of them is lime juice. And of that, we have 15. And sugar syrup. The same amount, 15. Now I'm going to add ice to the mixing glass. So you'll note that on the presentation there, I've got shake. All right, you can do this whichever way you want. If you want to stir it down like so, perfect. If you do actually want to get your shaker out, or you might have a mason jar, a protein shaker, whatever you have, it's completely up to you how you actually prepare this drink. The really important thing is, if you are going to shake your drink, lots of ice. All right, the less ice you have, the faster it dilutes. We don't actually want to add too much water to this drink. All right, so I like to stir, because then along the way I could actually taste. So for me, that's a little bit too sweet personally. That's way better. Alrighty. So one little trick as well, team at home, if you are shaking cocktails, all right, it's quite important that next time you're out and about at Countdown or wherever you're shopping, is that you get yourself a little fine strainer or a tea strainer, all right? Because when we're making cocktails, this little thing is going to save your drink every single time. When you're shaking, you're actually crushing all the ice, all right? And if we're going to have it neat like so, even if you can't see it, there are lots of small shards of ice that will sit in your drink. What's going to happen over time is that those shards of ice are going to melt, and they're actually going to dilute your drink even more. So a tea strainer or a fine strainer like this will just remove all those very small shards, and that means that the way you're tasting your drink now will be the same at the end of your drink. All right, so the Gimlet is meant to be a really, really sour lime-based cocktail. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get some of the lime zest. So get myself a little peel from the outside of the fruit. Over the top she goes. And you'll find that the oils from the skin of the fruit are going to taste and actually add a dynamic that is very different to the liquid or the juice that you get from the inside of the fruit. So they're not actually the same taste profile. So I'm just going to put this in the sink, excuse me. So this here is a gin gimlet. So again, the history of this drink, I will get to that question in a second. So this here is the gimlet. The gimlet, again, in history, we talked a little bit about the gin and tonic and how that came to be. It was actually a drink that made people appear a little bit healthier by fighting off malaria. Scurvy on ships was also really, really rife. So what they would do is, to make the ration of gin and the lime taste better, they actually put it together. Now, by then they had actually found that sugar was the ultimate drug in the world. Add a little bit of sugar and you've got this basic drink that's called the Gimlet. So you can make this in a punch style as well. Absolutely delicious. But this is, you'll find, recipes such as a daiquiri, margarita. They're all sort of have the same kind of history. A lot of cocktails have their history intertwined with people getting sick. And you'll find that gin is often referred to as Dutch courage. All right, so Dutch courage, again, is a historical thing. And when the English and the Dutch fought side by side, the English couldn't work out why the Dutch were so courageous. All right, really, because they saw them drinking this, what they thought was water. So after battle, every morning they would get up and they would just get out and about and be able to keep going again. Really, what was happening is they were drinking gin, and they got absolutely pissed every single morning before they went into battle. And that's where the term Dutch courage actually comes from. So the next time that the Dutch and the English fought side by side, the English were also pissed for most of the time. So that's how they got through their battles. So this is the gin gimlet. Enjoy it. Oh, is that Zane I see there? How are you, boy? Good lad. What do we think of this drink, team? Good? Give us another thumbs up if you actually added more lime juice or added any extra citrus. Anybody? Yeah, a little bit there, a little bit. So just when it comes to sugar syrup, obviously these guys and at Glengarry's you can buy it, which is way easier than trying to make it yourself. But if you're in desperate need, all right, the best way to make sugar syrup is you boil your jug, and then it's just 1 part water to 1 part sugar. And you can use any type of sugar you like. Icing sugar is not so great, but sometimes it can add a particular flavor. And then you just mix it down until all the sugar is dissolved. And if you sterilize whatever container or bottle you're storing it in, if you sterilize it, you can keep it for anywhere between sort of 4 to 6 weeks easily in the fridge. No worries at all. But if you want a consistent product, I would just spend I don't know how much it is, X amount of dollars to buy it. It makes it way easier. And then you get the same thing every single time, which we know is important. You just mentioned Bellini, peach, and rose cup with the Prosecco would be, oh yes, so good. Kelly, I agree with you 100%. So that Hayman's peach and rose cup that we tried at the beginning, that with a little bit of Prosecco on top would be absolutely fantastic. I agree. Another cool.
Sorry, Kenny, that sugar syrup's $8.99. I wouldn't make it. I'd just order it online at Glengarry, much easier.
I agree. Yeah. People always ask me, like in this job, they're like, oh, so do you make your own gin or do you make, I'm like, no, there's so many people out there doing all their hard work for me. I just buy it. It's way easier. Yeah, I agree.
It seems I've just sold some to Belinda, so that's good. Doing my job for the day.
There you go. Yeah, you're getting paid next week. So just so people know as well, when it comes to cocktails, you'll often see that a lot of cocktails or a lot of people are using egg white in their cocktails. So if you are going to, like, a lot of sours are actually like really, really, really delicious by using egg white. If you don't like egg white or you're vegan or whatever, you can actually also use a thing called aquafaba. Buy yourself a can of chickpeas from the supermarket and use the juice. I know it seems really, really weird, but the flavor won't carry through your cocktail. But the beautiful thing about egg white is it just adds this beautiful foam and texture on top. A gimlet with an egg white, shaken of course, is next level amazing. Just make sure that when you do use egg white, all right, is that when you put it into your shaker, shake it without ice first, all right? It's called a dry shake. So make sure that you dry shake it first, no ice, for about 10 seconds. This will emulsify the egg white, all right, and start to create a lot of foam. Open your tin up, add lots and lots of ice, crack it again, shake properly, and then pour it into your glass and you're ready to go. So next time you're ready for another delicious drink, try a gimlet, but add an egg white and give it a good shake. It'll be absolutely amazing. All righty, shall we move on? Gimlet and white Negroni, so far amazing. Yes, I think we have been spoiled for choice today, to be completely honest with you. All righty, I'll bring my share screen up, share this. All righty, one of my absolute personal favorite drinks around the world. All right, so the Tom Collins is actually a style of drink. All right, so the Tom Collins asks for Old Tom, but a Collins simply means a sour cocktail with some kind of mixer in a tall glass. All right, so I've got my glass here. So we're going to grab our Hayman's Old Tom, which we now know is a little bit of sugar added. So before we start mixing the rest of the cocktail, I do suggest that just pour a little bit into your glass and give it a smell and a taste by itself. You'll find that it's like the body of this product is like quite thick. It's super thick and it's super sweet, because what we do for our Hayman's Old Tom is we take our Hayman's London Dry, and you guessed it, we add a little bit of sugar, right? That's all we do. But personally, for cocktails, I love using Old Tom gin. I think it is just next level amazing. So for this drink, We're going to go 45 mils of Old Tom. You can measure it, but if you're anything like me and this is the last drink of the day, I'm just going to pour the whole bloody thing in. So next, traditionally, I will just point out that traditionally a Tom Collins does kind of ask for lemon juice, all right, and lemon and lime. They're relatively interchangeable. But the good thing about Haymans is that we actually use lemon in the botanical mix. So lime is actually a pretty close replacement for it. So 30 mils. Sugar syrup, 15 mils. And before you add the soda water, we fill the glass up with ice. And I know I've been harping about it all day, but ice is your friend, all right? Same thing as I talked to you before about the mojito, all right? We don't need a lot of mixer. We're only trying to add a little bit. So for me, I'm looking to add about anywhere between 30 and 45 mils of soda water. That's it. So just a splash on top. It's not meant to be a long fizzy drink, all right? Now we just need to give it a good stir. And again, the garnish, we've talked about it all day. It's completely up to you. Grapefruit, orange, lime, lemon, whatever you've got. I've got mint right here. So I'm going to use that. Like I said to you and preached to you before, I squeeze the leaves just to release all that aroma. A nice big sprig. And there we have it. This is the Tom Collins. Oh, that has summer written all over it. I absolutely love this drink. This last one is my fave. Sweet, yeah, for sure. How much aquafaba would you use instead of an egg white? So what you'll find is that egg whites are usually around 30 mils. So same amount of aquafaba, 30 mils. Again, I'll throw the question over to you in a minute, Liz, but there is this also, there's this amazing product you can buy called Foamy, Foamee, I think. It's so cool. It's vegan, gluten-free, blah, blah, blah. But you only need like 3 drops of this stuff in your cocktail and it creates this beautiful foam that lasts forever. So if you don't want to go to the the hassle of splitting your egg whites or using aquafaba, look up this foamy stuff. You don't sell it, Liz? No, I've looked before, but it's I use it all the time for events and stuff because it's so easy and so consistent. It's delicious. This is delicious. I am quite pissed. Oh no, I'm gutted that Juliet's camera is turned off. Actually, could be quite good. I have enjoyed watching, who is it, Heidi and Erica. They've been a vibe. Yeah.
Cool.
Has everybody had fun? Has it been good? Nice, nice. Well, hopefully you guys have obviously enjoyed the cocktails. How good. Like I said, Hayman's, amazing gin. It's my go-to every single day gin. Next level amazing. Obviously East Imperial New Zealand products, so what more do I need to say apart from all the other things you learnt about it? But when it comes to cocktails, like really try measure it. It's really important to get consistency, but don't be scared to play around. The worst thing that can happen is that you just boof the drink and try again. So just a quick thank you from me for everybody for tuning in. I know it's Saturday afternoon, man, like we should do this every week, I reckon. Just there are so many cocktails in the world to get through, so I reckon we could do this every week. But I've had a lot of fun. If you do have any other questions, make sure you chuck them in the chat. I'll hang out for a bit and try to answer as many as possible, but I'll hand it over to Liz to maybe sign off. Thank you, team. Cheers.
Cool. Hey, thank you, Kenny. I think probably the first thing to do is to say massive thank you. And I hope you don't mind me also just sharing with everyone a new father in lockdown. Congrats.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
How many weeks old now?
4. Yeah.
4 weeks. Yeah. So yeah. So
it's been a hell of a ride. Thank you.
Yeah. We certainly really appreciate you doing this on a Saturday afternoon, and with all of that in the background as well. Thank you also to everyone who's joined us this afternoon. Lots of questions that have come through. Probably the biggest one is, can we do this again, and can we keep doing it post-lockdown? And the answer to both is yes. We have a Bordeaux tasting end of next week, which I think we're about 4 or 5 seats from sold out on that. And we are currently working on a schedule for October. So once we've got that in place, we will definitely send it out to all of you who have joined us this afternoon. Those have already been on our Zoom tastings. And we've got a lot of people who have actually popped notes in, particularly that they're based outside Auckland and not Auckland and Wellington, and not easy to get to a Glengarry tasting, and how much you've enjoyed Zoom tastings. And for exactly that reason, yes, we will keep going post-lockdown, because we really are enjoying sharing what we do in Auckland and Wellington with the rest of the country. And in fact, last year in April, I met a customer who I've sold wine to for 25 years and have never met him, and met him on a Zoom tasting. So there you go, there's some upside to all of this horrible lockdown. So just what I said at the beginning, we will send out a link to where you can buy all these products. We're also going to send out a link to the presentation and a link to this video this afternoon. Kenny, I'm looking at all these people on the screen, and they're 100% ready for the rest of their Saturday night in lockdown.
Oh man, I wish we could all just get together. It'll be a hell of a freaking party, I tell you.
Cool. So on that, guys, cheers. Hope you've I can see you've enjoyed it. I don't need to ask that. And thanks once again for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks, Kenny. I think everyone can just unmute themselves now.
You're welcome to talk.
You can talk.
Thank you, Kenny. You are a vibe too.
Thanks, mate.
Level amazing, Kenny.
Yes.
Awesome. Kenny. Awesome.
Awesome.
And party in Erica's place.
Yeah, I know. How good.
Shot Kenny.
Thanks, Fano. Oh, right. Oh, I saw the message come through, and I was like, Ray, well, I know 2 of them, and one of them I work with. Surely I can't be him. How are you, bro?
Good, mate. Good.
Yeah.
Good session, all right?
Yeah, all good?
Oh, just wait. No, good. Oh. Awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries. We'll do it again.
Any excuse to drink alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. You've got all these people online.
You've got us.
Yeah, so true. What was the favourite drink for those people that are still here?
That's the last one.
Yeah.
Sweet Negroni.
Yeah.
Negroni and the Gimlet was great. Excellent.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, Negroni was awesome.
We liked all of them.
We're going to use that for summer, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like that Tom Collins, if you add mint to it, it's like a gin mojito, right? Like it's honestly the same recipe. So yeah, it's amazing. Get yourself some mint sorted.
That gin liqueur I was talking about, if you can influence in any way, that is absolutely awesome. If anyone hasn't tried it, truly it's the next level.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Try and get them to make it again. I'm looking at my bottle and thinking,
What's it called? What's the name? What's the
Hayman small batch 18.
Yeah. That is that is quite an old bottle. You've done well to still have that.
I'm not sharing it.
Yeah.
He sleeps with it.
Yeah. Breakfast.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
What other what do you call those things? The decoration-y things? What do you call them?
Garnish.
Garnish.
What other garnishes, outside the box garnishes are there that you like?
That I like. For me, honestly, like I tend to not use a lot of garnishes because, like I said, like the products that we're using these days and that we can buy these days, I just like the quality of them is so freaking amazing, you know. But if I am going to use things, I like things like thyme. Thyme is beautiful because, and I in my garnish is more like for the nose on the drink. So even though this drink this Tom Collins that I've garnished with mint doesn't have mint in it, on my nose, that's all I'm getting. So by the time that I drink it, I'm expecting mint, but when I taste it, I'm not getting any of it. So things like thyme, rosemary are amazing products to use. Yeah.
Dawn's writing this down, so make it important. Or Dawn.
Yeah, it's quite strong. So just a little bit. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And you know, like ice, like I said, like ice is so important, you know.